Hi everyone, it's Roger and James here from the What's on Disney Plus podcast. In this week's episode, we're going to be talking about a brand new series, Pistol, which is coming up on Hulu and Disney Plus at the end of the month. We'll also be talking full spoilers on Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, but we'll let you know ahead of that one there. So if you haven't already done so, you can check us out on whatsondisneyplus.com. You can also subscribe on the audio platforms as well, such as Spotify and stuff. So quick note as well, we are recording this ahead of schedule, just because I'll be on vacation and therefore we wanted to get this one out. So if there's been any major breaking news this week, I mean, maybe like Hulu's gone and all of this, but probably not. We won't be covering any of the news this week, because we can't. If we could tell the future, we'd have brought our lottery tickets. Right, so let's move on and talk. So let's start off. We're going to be talking a lot about Marvel. But let's start off with Pistol. So this is a brand new series coming from FX. It's coming on May the 31st on a Tuesday. We're going to be getting all 6 episodes. So this is all about the creation and the life of the Sex Pistols, which is a punk band from the 1970s in the UK. It's a very gritty. I mean, this is. If you're going to say it's a Sex Pistols series, you've got to know that it's going to have, it's sex, drugs, and rock and roll. This is in the 70s. It is graphic. There's plenty of swearing. It's not a comfortable viewing. It's sometimes you go, it's like it's definitely not a show you want to be watching with everyone. I cannot get over the irony that this is a Sex Pistols like drama series on Disney Plus, and I quite often have seen some people kind of going, how is this on the Disney Channel? It's not on the Disney Channel, but this is the most like anti-Disney like series you probably could have put on there. It is really, really good. It is a very high-end top, again, the FX HBO like territory sort of series here. Very well done. I've binge watched through the series. It's very well played. There's it's also, it made it look like it's in the 70s because it's like done in the ratio of an OTV to like 4:3. It's like got a filmy grain to it, so it like looks like old. They put in also clips and stuff and like to make of the time and stuff in there as well, and it's just very well made. It is a top quality one. But if you don't like the Sex Pistols, this isn't going to work. This is just. I mean, I didn't really know. I don't really know. I knew nothing about the Sex Pistols really. I knew about God Save the Queen, Anarchy. You hear like 3 seconds of the song at some point on being mentioned, and I've seen like Johnny Rotten being on like TV, being interviewed and stuff. But as a whole, I'm not a fan of the Sex Pistols music. It's not for me. I like rock music, and I even like a bit of punk music. But this one is just a band that I just don't really. But I really enjoyed the series of learning more about them because of how, especially maybe more being a Brit, it's kind of part of our. They were so influential. There's a whole load of stuff in here as well about like Vivienne Westwood, because they were like teamed up at one point, kind of because they were like, she had a shop and that's where it was sort of based, which I didn't know. And yeah, it was, I found it really enlightening with the idea of just finding out more about this band, which is, it's been something that's been around for a long time in my history, but maybe in America it might not feel that way. In some way, they expect you to know who they are, but at the same time, it's quite beginner friendly. There's a lot of stuff in here because it's based on the memoir of Steve Jones, who was one of the founders, rather than Johnny Rotten. Because even the other week, Johnny Rotten was on like daytime TV saying how he's been trying to get this show shut down. It's all fabrication, none of it's real, and and he's always been very, when he's on TV, there's something about him which just captures. He's just got this personality. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. It's it's going to be dropping on a Tuesday at the end of the month. Can't recommend this one enough. If you like Sex Pistols or you're interested in learning more, it's definitely not for kids. It is a full 18 certificate. There's sex, drugs, rock and roll all in here. It is a top quality adult drama series.
Yeah, so obviously I haven't seen it, which is why I've not been talking about it. I just want to say, like, they're a band that are extremely well known. Obviously, like, I don't listen to their music, but I know who they are, and I know some of a lot of the influence that they've had on music in the 70s and 80s and heck, even into today. And even though they're not a band that really follows me, I'm looking forward to seeing this because there have been some very good top quality music-based drama movies and shows in the last couple of years, and it's great to learn about this stuff.
Yeah.
It's I'm wondering if this would almost be like what Bohemian Rhapsody should have been, because say what you will about Freddie Mercury, his life was not PG-13.
No.
And like Elton John, we got the movie with him, and I'm pretty sure Elton himself was like, if you're doing this, it's got to be right. It's got to be R, because my life is not PG-13.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that they're kind of letting the stories be told the way they should be told. Keeping in mind, Bohemian Rhapsody is still a lot of fun. Love the music, love Queen and all that. But it's definitely Freddie Mercury is not particularly accurate to real life.
No, it's very much like toned down. And Rocket Man was kind of the same with Elton John. They had a little bit more on it, but it was very much. But they were both the same director, actually.
You're right.
Dexter Flex, kind of, because he took over Bohemian Rhapsody. But this is very British. This is a proper British TV series. I think it was Danny Boyle was the director. I mean, he did like Train Spotting, so we're definitely in like that territory. The way it looks, the bringing in the local news stations and the music kind of brought back a little bit of nostalgia for me. I mean, I wasn't around in the 70s, but that kind of obviously carried on in the 80s. And yeah, it feels different from any of, because it's British, and there's this different when they're talking about stuff. It's not American, and I really like that about this series. This almost feels like the one of the first like Star originals on Disney Plus that this is a British show. This is not, obviously Americans are having it because it's made by FX, but yeah, I really enjoyed it. It's a top quality show. This is again a high quality drama series for Disney Plus, which we just can't get enough of. And again, it's on Disney Plus internationally. It is just crazy. I'd actually say this feels worse. I don't know if it's like, this is like, like Pam and Tommy doesn't quite fit. And then this is just like, this doesn't fit either. And just like, these are, and the Kardashians, they're really pushing the boundaries of what you wouldn't expect to find, which is almost like their tagline at the minute.
The thing, I mean, Pam and Tommy, yes, obviously it's based around, a sex scandal and the tape getting out. But honestly, for the most part, I would say like 80% of it wasn't R-rated, other than maybe the language.
Yeah.
Again, having not seen this, I would suspect this would be the other way around, where it's like 20% is okay and 80%.
Yeah, it's just the language and just the way they are and stuff, and just the way they talk and stuff. I mean, there's this whole scene, just like with like Maisie from Game of Thrones, just riding along a bike on the seafront in basically a see-through top. And like, obviously in the 70s, and people just being like, this is great. And it's not, I think this is like episode 2, I think it was. And it was just like, there's this old couple, and this old man just like his wife whacks him up with a handbag. And it's just so British. And just like, there's just whole aspects to it that it's not comfortable viewing. It's definitely, but it's the Sex Pistols. I don't know, it's not going to be. It was.
It would be disingenuous to try to paint it as a happy band doing happy band things. Even I know that much.
It's definitely not that kind of thing. But I definitely would recommend it. If you're a Sex Pistols fan, check it out. If you're interested in them, check it out. But just as a whole, it's a top quality show for Disney Plus. So that one there, as I said, drops on Tuesday, the 31st of May. So getting the entire series at once. So that's just been really good. Moving on from there, let's now talk about Doctor Strange. So let's just put it out there. We're going to go into spoiler territory from here on out, because it's been out a couple of weeks. So it's not like it's full blown. So it's not like it's straight out. And we only saw it literally 2 days ago when it came out. So Doctor Strange, what did you think of the film?
Overall, it was a good film. Well done for the most part, but I have to say I felt unsatisfied with it. The story that they told, they executed well enough. Wanda's descent and her threat to everything was well told, but I don't think it was the right story to tell with the characters at this point. Eventually, yes, Wanda's definitely on the downward spiral path, but I think they got to it too early and rushed it. And so, like, I left the theater kind of good movie, but I would have preferred something different.
For me, I definitely enjoyed it. It's kind of like middle of the road Marvel movie. I think the trouble is now we're at a point now where we've got like 30 to 35 movies and series. Now the scope of good and great is good. I feel like this one, it didn't. I would have loved it if Marvel had a little bit more guts in the idea of not spoiling any of the cameos. Like so like with like Patrick Stewart and Captain Marvel, I didn't like it at all. And also Captain Carter, when they started showing them in more clips, I didn't like that one. So therefore there was only like really like one surprise thing that someone unfortunately spoiled for me on the Facebook group, so they did get banned because they pissed me off.
Please don't do
that. Like literally on the lines of, it's like, hold on, but this movie has not even been out for, wasn't even out yet. It was like, no, you did that on purpose. So therefore, that was just like, no way. But it was very much like, the whole thing of like, is it John? I can't think of what his name was. John
Krasinski.
Yeah. So he's the guy from the office. Yeah. Because he's been like the fan cast for a long time. He's been the fan cast for what people wanted him to play. And I mean, now, is it all open for him to come in and like do it properly? But the fact, for me, there was this one thing, and I really sort of, in wrestling terms, what ended up happening with the Illuminati was they basically all put over Wanda as this big threat. She basically destroyed them all. Just killing and just snapping the neck of Professor X. That is a powerful, powerful moment. You think here of a hero that we've seen in literally in what, 7 or 8 movies, and she literally just snaps his neck, and you're like, wow, that was a powerful, powerful moment to kind of, because they were able to pull on the previous movies. Now they obviously made out the fact that he is different. I love the fact that when he came in, they did the X-Men cartoon music. The show that he was a little bit different, and he's in the yellow chair and stuff. But I couldn't get out. I definitely felt like that was a very powerful moment for putting her over. Just the way she killed Black Bolt. That was horrible. It is. Who would have thought Black Bolt from the Inhuman series would have made it onto the MCU?
Well, actually, that was the one thing. I was really glad that they brought Black Bolt in, because it was a nice little nod to the Inhumans. I know the show didn't go over very well for good reason, but I'm glad that they didn't just sweep it under the rug completely and they let him have it. Sorry, the cat. But I wanted to address, them talking about, or you talking about killing the Illuminati, which included Professor Xavier, Black Bolt, alternate Captain Marvel, Captain Carter. And it's just like, I had the exact opposite reaction for it. I was like, oh, you brought in these characters that we've wanted to see, that we've wanted to have the story with, and you just redshirted them. Like, we've wanted Mr. Fantastic, we've wanted these characters, and we get them, and their only literally their only purpose is to prove how strong Wanda is. And it's like, we already know she's crazy strong. Even if you haven't seen WandaVision, which, if you haven't seen WandaVision before this, you kind of have to.
Ironically, Sam Raimi hasn't.
Apparently. But we'll come back to that in a second. We know how powerful she goes toe-to-toe with Thanos in Endgame. She's one of the only characters who can do that. They didn't need a scene showing how powerful she was. This was really just Sam going, I'm going to do brutal deaths to characters that you like, which, fine, that you hire Sam for particular reasons.
See, I feel like in some ways, this is where the problem is with the multiverse. It makes it all become a little bit... it takes away the threat level a little bit, because now you're at a point where anyone can get killed, but also anyone can be brought back. So therefore, it removes the fact of, we've killed off Thanos, we've killed off Killmonger. Well, we can bring them all back now. Iron Man said we can bring them back. So now it removes that Robert Downey Jr. can just walk in. I feel in some ways by ruining the like the spoilers of the characters getting out there took away that moment. I mean, it was a little bit like trying to recapture what happened with Spider-Man No Way Home was always going to be hard. We all knew they were in it, but they were hiding it better. Like, I mean, Professor X literally, he went to the premiere. So it was a little bit like you're not hiding it anymore.
We knew long before the premiere that he was in it, but yeah.
I would have liked them not to have shown any of the Illuminati, and that'd just be a pure surprise.
It 100%. And the thing is, they didn't have to show him. It's not like Doctor Strange is some obscure movie. He had his own movie. It did really well. He was a major character in Infinity War and Endgame. Wong has been showing up in other films like Shang-Chi. It's not like this is this is a new character, so we've got to give it as much of a push as possible so people know about it. No, this is the returning character. Literally, all you have to do is go, it's Doctor Strange. Here's Wanda. Wanda's going to be in it. And it's going to be a horror film. And that's all you have to do. They did not need to do, Patrick Stewart's going to be in it. Or is he going to be in it? Was that his voice?
I suppose that the thing is, once they could go into the multiverse, they were able to play. They was almost that kind of thing like, we can play. We're in an alternative universe. I mean, I love that whole bit when they were going through the universes together and he become, we went cartoon and then it went like to paint. And then we were in black and white. That was great.
Honestly, that was probably the best sequence in the movie. And that's not to underscore the rest of the movie. That was just a really good sequence. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, and I've got to bring up, did you wait to the very end?
I did. Obviously, this is spoilers, so most of you probably already seen it anyway. It was a fun ending clip. As somebody who has watched many Sam's films, it was a nice little film because you can read it on multiple levels. Yeah. That said, waiting for it's probably not necessary.
It's a bit like that. Like if anyone was going like, you go, don't worry about the second one, just stay for the first one, because that one's obviously going to set up the next film. But it was a little bit like it was a fun little. It was almost like the Captain America like going, like why are you here still here?
Yeah. Kind of thing. That said, I still liked it better than like No Way Home just having a trailer for Doctor Strange. It was like at least you put something into it. And it was a very Sam Easter egg, too, because you could also read it as not just Bruce Campbell, harkening back to the beginning of the film, but also be like, oh, my God, the Evil Dead stuff is done because he was the hand and all that. Like,
well, I've never seen any of that. So therefore, I that was all like over my head. It was just a funny little ending. And it was a bit along the lines of, it's all right, I've got 5 minutes left in the car parking. I know I'm fine. The first post-credit scene, obviously with
Charlize Theron.
Like turning up and like, okay, here we go. This is Doctor Strange 3. I've obviously done a little bit of research since she's come out. She's a well-known character in the comic books. Mm-hmm. I wasn't so keen. What I didn't like was I didn't like the way it ended with obviously him screaming and then the third eye opening, and then we get the whole thing, because I think it would have worked better had they just had her appear, then look at him, and then he fall down to the ground and go, oh, and then the eye opened. That would have been like, in some way, like it took away from the eye opening up, because we then see him like walking along fine the next second. And I got nothing wrong with her just showing up, and I thought that was fine. I don't know about her. That was what I was Googling while I was waiting for the second credit. Who is it?
I'm not sure about her design yet. Her costume was a little odd, even by like Marvel movie standards, but we'll see. We have to wait to see that in action. But I wanted to say the same thing. The movie ends on that great little quick, he is in a lot of pain. The third eye opens, which of course is a very significant thing based on what had happened earlier in the movie. And then the mid-credit scene is like, oh, yep, I'm having a good old stroll down and everything's fine. And the eye opens with absolutely no problem at all immediately after that. It's like, oh, way to undercut your own ending.
Yeah. So that was my only issue. I generally, as a whole, I enjoyed the film. I definitely thought it was a solid one. I liked America Chavez. I thought she was great in this one here. Again, I don't know too much about her, but they didn't really give her a lot of development. Okay, her mum's got lost. Okay, what else do we know about her? She steals food, and there's no copies of her, and that's literally all we know. They don't really get into much more than that. It's very basic A-level. Great for now, a new Disney Plus series, I would imagine, and an American Chavez series would be fantastic.
America Chavez or Young Avengers, because she's associated with Young Avengers, and we've already got Kate Bishop over from Hawkeye and things like that.
I kind of
She's
feel like
she wasn't in the original Young Avengers, but she was in one of the more recent series.
I just feel she needs some more development. I just feel like we just need to find something more about her, what makes her tick, what, because as a, having never read any of her comic books, it's a little bit like, I don't know who she is, I don't know what she does. She was just running this entire time until she eventually, stood up to Wanda. And it was a bit like, okay, I would have just liked a little bit more. This, again, we're getting spoiled with the development time of these Disney Plus series, where they, look at Moon Knight, they spent hours building up who he was outside of the suit. Whereas with American Chavez, we barely got like a minute.
Yeah, so she had enough development that you can't just say she's a plot device on legs, which is a common problem with Marvel movies. But she doesn't really have proper development. So we have the framework. Hopefully they will come back and explore her more in a Disney Plus series or her own movie, or, as a character who pops in through other movies while she's looking for her mom, something like that. But yeah, she needed more development, a lot more development. And again, the Illuminati needed more development. This was, I think, a common thing with this, because that was my impression. They got redshirted. They were there for the fan moment, and then we're going to kill them all in brutal ways. I would have liked to have spent a little more time with them as well.
Yeah, I definitely felt like that was something that I know there's a lot of people that were worried when they saw the runtime of the film but it's like the pacing of it probably was right in the way that they did it. Because sometimes developing can slow the movie down, and I don't know. I also, my biggest problem with the film actually was the inclusion of Rachel McAdams. I didn't mind her I didn't mind that opening scene with her at the wedding. I thought that worked great. I thought that worked perfectly, of showing he's lost out on her. We didn't need her on the other parallel universe, and then to her to start helping him. It was a bit like, and then she's there helping him, with the dark. Like, why did we need that bit of it? Which she didn't need to be there.
Yeah, there were sequences in the middle there, and yeah, there are just parts of that don't connect properly, and it really did feel like they only used her because she was a person we were familiar with.
Yeah.
Again, probably also some COVID restrictions in there, meaning they couldn't bring in too many people during the filming. A lot of this was
needed. Yeah. Did they need her? They did. It didn't feel like they needed her at that point.
They didn't. It did add a little bit of satisfaction to the end, where he gets to say "I love you," and even though it's not his version of the character, it felt like he needed to get that out of him in a way that would not be inappropriate to her, because she's now his version of her is now married, and it would. You do not tell the person who is getting married, "Oh yeah, I still love you." By the way,
it would have been more. I think it would have been better had Wanda just killed her at some point. That would have been a little bit more, a bit more fuel under
this version of the character, not necessarily the original version.
Just because I just feel like if they killed was it 812 version or whatever version she was,
823. So I don't remember the exact number. Either way.
This guy sat in front of me at the cinema. They mentioned 616. He literally like jumped off his seat and he was. There was a few times when something happened. It was like, okay, that obviously means that yeah.
The one that got a reaction, well, several things got a reaction, but the one that got the biggest reaction at the theater I went to was the mention of the Baxter Foundation, because this was before Mr. Fantastic showed up. But the Baxter Foundation is the Fantastic Four. That's one of their primary organizations. So when there were a whole bunch of people in the audience going, "Oh my God, did he say the Baxter Foundation?"
It was more that the biggest reaction was the Mr. Fantastic reveal. That was the big one. That was the Spider-Man, the Andrew Garfield kind of response.
But it goes back to the point that you said before. We didn't know about that one, aside from random jerk in Facebook spoiling it for you. We didn't know about Mr. Fantastic. We knew about Professor Xavier. We knew about Captain Carter. Knowing in quotes. They weren't officially revealed, but we knew about them. Having Mr. Fantastic show up was just like, yes.
Overall, like I said, I feel like it was a real solid film. I enjoyable. I'll watch it again when it drops onto Disney Plus, which will probably be like July time, I'm gathering. Maybe August.
I would lean more towards August. I would love to be wrong. I love it when Disney Plus proves me wrong on things like that. But they'll never put it out by that. But, oh yeah, we're gonna drop it.
Yeah, I don't feel. I mean, obviously we could be wrong when we're recording this and we got egg on our face, but I can't see them announcing it just yet because they're going to want to make some money off this one because it looks like it's going to be doing some big bucks this weekend because it's literally come out this weekend for us when we're recording it. But yeah, this is a big one. Really good, solid movie. Really liked it. Yeah, any final thoughts on Fantastic? Or not Fantastic Four?
Fantastic Four.
the Fantastic One, that is, anyway.
He did mention that Invisible Woman is out there to raise their kids, so
yeah.
there's at least one more out there. Can we talk about Zombie Strange's makeup for a second there? Right. Oh my god, that was bad.
Yeah. Well, I had a whole other issue with some of the stuff because I didn't really think it was bad. I didn't really notice. I didn't really think I didn't like pick up on it looking bad at all. I feel more on the lines of we had this like interconnection with the What If shows because obviously we're Captain Carter, and that's like, well, is she the same Captain Carter that we saw in the series? We don't know. But also like the whole thing of like the other evil Doctor Strange is that it's not quite the same evil Doctor Strange that we saw in the What If, but also the zombie version. It wasn't actually a zombie Wanda. It wasn't her because we thought in the trailer that's what she was, but she wasn't a zombie. And also the zombie Doctor Strange wasn't a zombie version of him either. They kind of jumped over the What If and kind of made it that you did need to know about it, but you didn't need to know about it. It was
What If you did not need to see What If before this? None of the stuff directly connects to it. And I think
the Captain Carter one probably would help.
It would help. I mean, it certainly would help to have the Captain Carter one, but I don't think it's the Captain Carter from What If, so not a huge deal. But I felt like I need to go back and watch it again. One of the trailers where we first see evil Doctor Strange or whatever, I feel like they changed the appearance for the trailer so he looked more like the What If Doctor Strange. And then when we got into the actual movie, it's like, oh no, this is just a slightly corrupted, and he did not look the same.
He didn't look. Yeah, you're right. He didn't look quite as sinister. I don't know if they changed the grayness on him or something.
I think it was the beard. The beard looked different.
Yeah, it was definitely. I enjoyed it, but there was an interconnection, obviously, with What If. It very much kind of brings up this whole thing of like where does this like? It feels like we've had the multiverse thing, and we've had the time variance, and I was sitting there thinking. I'm thinking I'm getting a little bit confused here. Now, if I'm getting confused at this, like it must be the general audience must be getting even more confused. Of like, okay, so we've got the time variance timeline from Loki, and they got all these different alternative versions of it. It's like, well, that's not the same as the multiverse. And I'm like,
is it or is it not?
It's like, is the like each parallel, each like timeline branch is that then a separate universe? I'm like, I don't know. It was a little bit like, okay, what on earth is going on now with and then obviously we're going to be getting like Quantum Mania with Kang and all. I'm like, well, time travel in this multiverse, like, are they totally separate?
Yeah. Well, that was the thing. They did seem to imply, at least in Endgame, that it's not time travel. It's hopping between dimensions that just happen to be at separate times or something like that. At this point, we have to assume that it's pretty intricately plotted, that they know what they're doing with it. I say that hoping that that's true, because like I also would have thought, oh yeah, they had the entire Star Wars trilogy planned out, and that obviously didn't end up being the case. But the Marvel universe has been much more tightly connected, and there's a lot of pieces going on. So I have to assume that they know how all these pieces come together, because on top of that, they've also got completely other different storylines. They got the Eternals going on, with big cosmic stuff going on over there. They've got, Shang-Chi has an entirely different realm that he can go to, where Ben Kingsley is apparently hanging out now, and so they've got all these different threads going on, just all over the place. And if they are not currently managing it very closely, it is going to be a mess by the time we get to whatever the equivalent of Infinity War is.
Yeah, well, I think there's a lot of talk now, like Secret Wars might be the next big one.
Yeah. Well, we know there's a series for Secret Wars coming,
and obviously we got Secret War and Secret Invasion, and we've got all of that coming in. It's because I was having this discussion with people, and they were talking about like oh yeah, we're going to getting all like the phase 5 announcements and stuff. And I'm going, excuse me, we are actually only 18 months into phase 4 at the minute. It actually only started for WandaVision. And they're like, I'm like, oh, I said, I know it. They got announced like 3 years ago. So we're everyone, there's like, yeah, we're actually only 18 months into it. And some of the phases are a little bit longer than, 3 years. And like, we still got maybe another 2 years in this phase yet. It's like, yeah, no, we've got, I think we're literally like barely in the middle of this phase at the minute. And like, there's a long way to go.
And we will see where they're going, because we've got, Thor: Love and Thunder coming up, not too distant future. Miss Marvel's coming out. She-Hulk is coming out. And they're all bringing very different angles to the story. And of course, if you remember, you go back to phase 1, was there a connection between Captain America, First Avenger, and Thor? And it really didn't feel like it, other than maybe like Coulson showing up between them and Nick Fury showing up. And yeah, so these all feel very disparate and all over the place, but we've seen them do it before.
Yeah, and it's just very interesting to see how all of this is connecting, and in some ways the multiverse like opens up the opportunities for them to start telling stories. We're doing like what ifs, separate sidelines, bringing people in and maybe recasting characters that they can do. They're going to have this. I mean, not only are they going to have the multiverse, they're going to get the secret invasion, which will then also open them up for potentially bringing people back, or bringing in, like turns out, a character that we thought was gone was actually just a scroll, or something like that.
Obadiah Stane, it wasn't really him. It was actually a Skrull, and that's why he tried to take over, Stark technology. That's why he tried to get Tony assassinated, because the real Obadiah Stane is actually, an actual father figure, and he really loved him, but they replaced him, and I'm totally spitballing. There's no evidence of any of that. But yeah, there's a lot of that going on. But going back to the Illuminati here, they have to make it impactful. Because they very much run the risk, and I think they ran over that risk and missed it completely here with the Illuminati. Is, oh yeah, we brought them in just so we could kill them off, and the shock value of that disappears very quickly.
Yeah,
and I think those of us who've been watching the Disney Plus, because we saw it with the What If shows, 8 episodes of that, where it's like, oh yeah, that character, they're dead. That character's dead. They're all zombies now, but they're all dead, and so on. And you very quickly lose the impact of going, oh my God, you killed Captain America. It's like, oh, well, they've done that like 7 times already. I don't know.
Well, I mean, it's like there was that thing with Tony Warner. They kept killing off Iron Man. Like it completely just destroyed what it was. I don't know. It's very interesting to see how the multiverse could affect like the Disney Plus series and the movies moving forward. It gives, I mean, we've got like the Marvel Zombies show, so that's obviously going to be like an animated one. Like now, almost like X-Men 97 as well has like been interconnected with with obviously with Xavier. That's been. I'm wondering now, like, obviously they've completely opened it up for the mutants are like floating. Now we've got Xavier in there. We've previously had Ralph Boner in there as well, and like they've kind of really opened up this kind of the gateway a little bit, and like, what are they going to do with like Miss Marvel with the Inhumans, because we've had an Inhuman. We've seen an Inhuman on the big screen now.
Well, technically, we'd already seen them, because the first 2 episodes of Inhumans were on the big screen, at least here.
Yes, yeah, they did do that.
I know most people banished that from their memory.
Yeah. But now it's like, well, Black Bolt is now an Inhuman in the MCU, but he's not in the main 616 timeline, which is, how am I going to explain all this to my parents? It's going to be...
that's the other thing. And this is the thing with the comics, of course, too, is we've had comic readers have been arguing with this for years and years and years. Like, Wolverine's dead. No, actually, there's an old version of him running around, and that's Wolverine. But Wolverine's dead. No. That Wolverine's dead. This Wolverine's still around.
It's kind of what I always hated the idea of them doing the multiverse with the cinematic universe, was because it just made it... It's made everything so much more complicated. I know why they've done it, and it's obviously I think Marvel are going to handle it much better than DC, but they have to be very careful. And almost maybe like what they have done with so far is keep pulling it back to 616 is where it really matters. That's the only place that everything matters. Everything else is just, it can all go.
They will have to play it very carefully for a lot of the reasons we've already said. And there is potential for a lot of very good things, but they have to be doubly careful that it's not just nostalgia, right? I mean, that was the Professor Xavier thing. If it had been just some random person playing Xavier, it would not be the same as Patrick Stewart playing Xavier. Now, obviously, if they bring Xavier into 616, it will have to be someone different because Stewart's pretty much done with the role. But yeah, the reason that works is because it's Xavier. Or going to Spider-Man, the reason it's works is because it's Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire, people who played Spider-Man.
It also drastically increases the value of the entire Marvel back catalog. Because now you can turn into, they can have a separate section on Disney Plus. Go, well, this is the multiverse. This is, this happened in parallel universes. So it's not part of it, but now it kind of is a separate, which, they can get it does. I think it brings value to all of their back catalog.
And it worked for the DC CW shows as well. A couple of years ago, or more than a couple of years ago at this point, they did their version of Crisis on Infinite Earths, and they brought in, the guy who played Superman in Smallville. They had the original Flash had already been floating around, but they brought in like the voice of Batman from the animated show, and heck, they even got Ezra Miller to play the DC movie version of Flash in that, and it was a really good little mini-series event. And Marvel can have the same. But they have to be careful, again, that it's not just a nostalgia thing, because especially as younger audiences are coming in, they're not going to have grown up with these older versions of the characters, and they'll just be like, who's that? Why are mommy and daddy so excited to see that? And there's a time window that is rapidly disappearing for them to pull this off effectively.
And also, I keep hearing people kind of going, oh yeah, like Scarlet, they're like, oh yeah, get Scarlet Witch. Can she do the No More Mutants? Like, they can't do the No More Mutants. They haven't got any mutants yet. You have to establish them for at least 5 to 10 years before you can wipe them out and bring them back. You can't jump that step. It's too big. They've not got there yet.
You could do the other way. You can go where she says, oh yeah, let's just do mutants now. I don't know how you would phrase that.
I don't like that. I don't.
No. I'm not saying I want them to do that. I'm saying they could.
I like the idea of mutants just being, just being, that they come, and almost that kind of thing as well of, oh, they've always been there. We just didn't know them, because they called them special anomalies and stuff in the past, didn't they?
Right.
Special talents and stuff. So they've always got that. But it would be nice, maybe it's like, how do they do the X-Men? Do they do one, or do they just drop it in there, or some? Because they've already started. They're starting to drop the signals.
I would just at a complete guess, or if I was going to do it, I would say that it's a fallout from the reverse snap, or that something during the fight with Thanos got released into the atmosphere, and it will start triggering mutations in teenagers, because that's traditionally what it's been. And you start with the X-Men there as brand new. What is going on? Why are these people who are not getting bitten by spiders or something suddenly getting powers? Of course, that means you can't have Xavier be like the 70-year-old mutant who is bringing them together, but you can have someone else doing that instead.
It's also hard as well with Magneto, with it being connected to World War II. Obviously, that's just slipping further and further and further away.
Yeah, but
we're at that point of well, if he was there and he would be 90 to 100. It's almost, that's a major point of his life. And Logan obviously has been around for running around for a while. Logan, they might be able to get away with a little bit easier, but
they've always just said that Logan ages really slow, so they can get away with that. But Magneto's obviously an issue. Heck, even Punisher, Vietnam is a huge part of his backstory, but that's getting pretty far away for it to be him too. And I think
I suppose that I think that was easy, because they could probably just change it.
They can just move it. They can move it up to Afghanistan or something like that. But again, you have to. This is the problem with these long-running forever heroes, right? Is that you've got these characters who have actual historical events as part of their backstory, and the historical event keeps moving and time keeps marching on. So the comics bend over backwards to these things. Like Magneto has been regenerated and rebuilt and keeps coming back in new bodies and stuff like that. But I don't think movie audiences will be quite as tolerant of ideas like that.
Yes, I mean, and also as well, you kind of want like Magneto and stuff to be, you know, you're gonna want him in like his 30s or his 40s, because, and here's the other thing, we're going into this next generation of like they're looking 10 to 15 to 20 years ahead. I mean, Kevin Feige's already said they're planning the next 10 years out. Because I know a lot of people, like, you know, they're saying about like this cast. No point casting a 45, 50-year-old for a superhero that's not going to be on our screens for 5 years, because they need him. You know, it's like all these young Avengers. Well, in 10 years' time, they're all going to be in their 30s. They're no longer young anymore. So that's when they can use them, and kind of, but they're still always going to be the sidekicks. You know, that's always going to be the issue. At some point, I don't know. They'll either stop and reboot, or they can. But the multiverse also opens it wide open. We need a new young Captain America. Here we are.
There you go.
And there we go. We need one in, and that's it. We need a new young Thor. Yeah, bring him in. It's like, let's go again.
Well, they've already got Hemsworth's son playing like young Thor running through the forest, so that one writes itself.
Yeah, but no, it's going to be fun to see how all of this works out. But yeah, so there we go. So it's going to be a lot of fun with all these bits and pieces coming out. Before we go, I just want to say a quick thank you and hello to all of our patrons and YouTube channel members. So big hello and thank you to Raphael, Dana, Dan, Ben, Adam, Ricky, Dave, Ahmad. We've also got My VCR Still Works, Bina, Joshua Dawn, Martin, Jeremy, Sarah. Thank you so much for your support, Sarah. Really means a lot. We've also got Andrew Elliott, Jacob Cade, Red Mars Man, Aero G, Chris, Cody, Daniel, Darren, Juice, and Lauren and Paul. So thank you so much for your support continued on Patreon and YouTube channel members. We'll be back next week with a new episode, and we'll be back to doing it at our normal time because I'm on vacation right now. Actually, I'm literally on my way home, which is kind of sad. I'm not even gone yet. But yeah, so we'll be back then. And on that note, guys, thank you very much. See you guys soon. Later. Thank you very much for watching this video. Make sure you go check us out over at whatsondisneyplus.com. Like, follow, and subscribe. Also, a huge thank you to all of our supporters over on Patreon and also on our YouTube channel memberships. And I shall see you guys in another video. Laters.